Hey guys, welcome to term two. Woohoo! You made it through term one. You're killing the game. We're halfway there. So in term two, we're going to be going over foreign affairs aspects of American history. So we're kind of restarting in the 1800s and then making our way back through the 1900s to get hopefully to modern day, but probably not because of time. So we're just going to be covering different foreign affairs aspects. We're going to be talking about wars and things like that. And that all starts with imperialism in the 19th century in America. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview today of our involvement in foreign affairs in the 19th century. And then that'll be it. It should be a pretty quick video. So, in term one, we did discuss the Monroe Doctrine very briefly, but basically, the Monroe Doctrine was America's policy on foreign involvement up until our involvement in the Spanish American War almost. So, generally speaking, America had stayed out of foreign affairs ever since George Washington, our first president, warned us not to get involved when he left the office of president in 1796. So ever since 1796, America was like, all right, let's listen to George. He's never steered us wrong before. But then, uh, European powers start taking over different areas of the world as spheres of influence. So they kind of just move into an area and start making it their own, taking over and colonizing different areas of the world. So James Monroe, as president in 1823, decided to warn European nations to kind of stay out of our territory, the Western Hemisphere, because he didn't want that colonization and imperialism anywhere near America because he thought it would infringe upon our territory at some point. So he warned European nations to stay out of the Western Hemisphere, which was the Monroe Doctrine. So the Monroe Doctrine basically states that America will not interfere with European colonies that already exist, but we don't want Europe creating spheres of influence in the Western Hemisphere, which is where we are. So America used this strategy, the Monroe Doctrine, to deal with foreign affairs for about 100 years. And then we start becoming less isolated. So we are often referred to as a superpower in today's world. And this really started in the 1900s. But basically, what a superpower is when you are superior in regards to military, economy, different advantages that you have in your country, and things like that. So, for most of US history, we are relatively isolated. We follow the isolationist policy. We don't want to involve ourselves in foreign affairs. And this works pretty well for us because we are physically, like geographically, separated from most of the world by oceans. Europe is pretty far by boat. And we're mostly focused on domestic concerns because in the 1800s, we're a pretty new country. And then we become less isolated in the 19th century, which we'll talk about very in depth in this unit. But here is the beginning, basically, of us becoming involved in different foreign policy. So in 1853, we start trading with Japan. And this is pretty much due to overproduction in the United States. So we have to expand our trade markets. We want to export more goods to the rest of the world, right? And then we also, during this time period, annex parts of the Pacific Islands for refueling and naval purposes. So we annex Midway, Samoa, Wake, Guam, and Hawaii. So this is where we really start, taking over Hawaii, and eventually it becomes a state. In 1866, we send 50,000 troops to the US-Mexican border because there's French influence there and we don't want them to infringe upon our territory. And then in 1867, we purchase the Alaskan territory from Russia, and then eventually Alaska becomes a state as well. So we're really making the moves in the 1800s to kind of insert our influence into different parts of the world, even though we are asking Europe to not do that. So this is really where our imperialism starts. That is it for this notes video. Told you it would be short, and we will pick back up where we left off next time.